The White House is in full-blown panic mode because Germany and Italy are demanding the return of nearly 2,000 tons of gold, worth a shocking $245 billion, from the vaults of the New York Federal Reserve. And they're not wasting time.
Germany is thinking about bringing back its gold from the United States.
According to reports, the plan is to fly the gold back to Europe in under 2 months using military cargo planes. Yes, NATO aircraft will be airlifting gold bars out of America. This isn't a routine banking transaction. It's a direct message. 2 of America's closest allies no longer trust the US with their national wealth. And the reason? Trump's aggressive tariff war has turned partners into financial adversaries. Germany and Italy aren't just safeguarding their reserves. They're bracing for a world where America is no longer the financial anchor. This marks the first time in nearly 80 years that such a move is even being considered. Since World War II, the Federal Reserve has been viewed as the most secure vault on Earth. But that era may be unraveling. If this gold leaves US soil, it could send shockwaves through the global financial system, raising US interest rates, weakening the dollar's dominance, and inflicting real economic pain on millions of Americans. And here's the real bombshell. This might just be the beginning. If other countries follow suit, we could be watching the start of a historic shift in the global monetary order. So why now? Why Germany and Italy? And what role is Trump playing in this dramatic reversal of trust? Stay with us, because the gold is moving and the ground beneath Washington is starting to shake. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. The United States is often seen as a nation powered by its own wealth, technology, and resources. But what makes America truly dominant in global finance isn't just what it owns. It's what others entrust it with. One of the most overlooked sources of American power lies deep beneath the streets of New York City. The gold vault of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which holds over 6,330 metric tons of gold on behalf of foreign central banks and international institutions. That's more than 507,000 gold bars, valued at well over $400 billion. And the vast majority of it doesn't belong to the US at all. These reserves belong to more than 90 different countries, many of whom have kept their gold in the US since the end of World War II. This practice isn't about convenience alone. It's about trust, and that trust has given the United States enormous strategic and financial advantages. By acting as the global vault, the US has positioned itself at the very center of international finance, not just as a superpower, but as the guardian of global wealth. The US doesn't just benefit by holding its own gold, it leverages the assets of others. When foreign nations park their reserves in New York, they validate the US financial system. That stored wealth serves as indirect backing for the dollar and helps keep the US financial markets liquid and dominant. Gold transfers between countries can be settled instantly, just by updating the books at the New York Fed. No shipment required. This makes the US the essential hub for gold-based transactions and gives it unmatched visibility into the financial behavior of other nations. In effect, the US is able to amplify its global reach not only through its own resources, but by being the place other nations feel safest leaving theirs. This quiet custodianship has been one of the cornerstones of America's soft power for decades. Surprisingly, Germany and Italy are making plans to bring back 1,930 tons of gold from the United States. The 2 countries plan to move the gold using NATO military cargo planes, specifically IL-76 and C-17 aircraft, carrying about 50 to 60 tons of gold each week. If they stick to this schedule, all the gold could be back in Europe in just 2 months. The most unsettling part of this unfolding story isn't just that Germany and Italy are preparing to pull their gold out of the United States. It's that they may only be the beginning. Behind the scenes, entire blocks of Europe are quietly preparing similar moves. Quiet conversations within EU financial circles, especially in France, the Netherlands, Austria, and Belgium, suggest that more gold repatriation may follow if economic hostilities with the US escalate. These countries still hold hundreds of tons collectively at the New York Federal Reserve. For decades, they saw the US as the safest place to store their wealth. With trade tensions growing, even long-standing trust in US custodianship is beginning to crack. And Europe isn't making empty threats. During the last wave of US tariffs, France and the Netherlands had already brought part of their gold home. Now, with Trump pushing a new round of tariffs on European steel, autos, and agriculture, EU leaders are starting to treat the US less like a partner and more like a liability. Gold, once stored abroad as a gesture of transatlantic unity, is being redefined as a bargaining chip, a shield, or a weapon. As for the move Germany is making, this would be the largest gold repatriation operation in modern history. Germany has a total of 3,352 tons of gold, and more than 1,200 tons of it is still stored in foreign countries. Italy owns about 2,451 tons, with roughly 700 tons kept outside its borders. The last time Germany moved its gold back was between 2013 and 2017, when it quietly transferred about 300 tons from Paris and another 300 tons from New York to Frankfurt. But this time, the mood is different. This time, the move comes during rising political tension between the US and Europe, particularly over trade. Ever since Trump returned to the White House, he's been slapping massive tariffs on European goods. Cars, machinery, wine, you name it. Initially at 10%, but he later considered increasing it to 50% in June. European industries are furious. But this isn't just about money. This is about trust, or rather, the complete collapse of it. European leaders are beginning to see a terrifying pattern. Trump is willing to use the US economy and even the dollar system itself as a weapon to punish countries that don't bow to him. The EU is now asking a very serious question. If he can use trade to hurt us, what's stopping him from using our own gold against us? Inside Germany, lawmakers are demanding answers. Why is over 1,200 tons of German gold still sitting in US vaults? In Italy, politicians are warning that keeping gold in America is like leaving your money in the hands of someone who's ready to freeze it the moment they don't like what you're doing. This fear is not wild speculation. Europe watched closely when the US froze Russia's foreign reserves during the Ukraine war. That move shocked the world. Now, even America's allies are afraid they might be next. Pressure is building fast in European capitals. Central banks are under fire. Angry citizens and industries are demanding that their leaders stop trusting America with their most important financial asset. To make matters worse, there's a growing belief that the US Federal Reserve, once seen as independent, may no longer resist political pressure from Trump. What if Trump orders the Fed to delay or block gold shipments? What if he demands audits or worse, outright freezes on EU assets? This isn't just paranoia anymore. It's a policy. The scariest part is that this isn't coming from rivals like China or Russia. It's America's closest allies pulling back, preparing for a financial fallout they believe is now unavoidable. If this trend grows, we could be watching the first cracks in the collapse of US monetary dominance. In Germany, the issue of gold has become deeply political. The far-right party, Alternative for Deutschland, AfD, has pushed hard for full repatriation of the country's gold. They argue that letting the US or other countries hold Germany's gold is a sign of weakness. Alice Weidel, one of the party's leaders, says it's not just about money, it's about national pride and public trust. Her message has caught on with voters, especially now that relations with the US are becoming tense again. Even Friedrich Merz, who leads the more traditional and once pro-American Christian Democratic Union, CDU, is starting to shift his position and talking about independence from the US. He used to support strong ties with the US, but now he's thinking differently. As support for AfD grows and Donald Trump continues to threaten European trade with tariffs, Merz is floating a new idea. Maybe Germany's gold can be used as a tool in trade talks. In other words, he's suggesting the gold might not just be money, it might be political leverage. This is a risky game. If Merz demands the gold back and follows through, the US might respond in ways that hurt Germany's economy. But if he hesitates, he could look weak to voters. Either choice could backfire. Italy is facing a similar but even more fragile situation. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has long supported the idea of returning Italy's gold to Rome. In 2019, when she was in the opposition, she called for it loudly. But now that she's in power, the risks are harder to ignore. Tensions with the US are rising again. Steel and aluminum tariffs are back on the table. Italy's economy is not strong, and it can't afford more pressure from Washington. Meloni has to decide whether to act on her past promises or stay silent. If she demands the gold's return, she might provoke a reaction from the US. But if she does nothing, her own supporters will accuse her of going soft and giving in to American demands. If Germany and Italy go ahead with this plan, it will hit the US Federal Reserve hard. The New York Fed would lose billions in foreign deposits. Technically, that's just an accounting change, but in the real world, it sends a dangerous message. Markets react more to fear than to facts. A move like this could tighten liquidity in US money markets. It might cause small but noticeable disruptions in short-term lending and increase borrowing costs. The Federal Reserve has tools to manage this, like repo operations, but tools can't fix fear. Once the image of safety starts to crack, investors begin to panic. People will wonder, if Germany and Italy don't trust the Fed, why should anyone else? The gold withdrawal could also hurt the US in another way, by pushing up interest rates. Germany and Italy are expected to sell about $18 billion worth of US Treasury bonds to help cover the cost of transporting the gold and adjusting their reserves. Selling that many bonds all at once could cause their prices to fall, which pushes interest rates higher. Even a small rise in interest rates can have big consequences. The US government already spends over $1 trillion each year just paying interest on its debt. If interest rates go up even a little more, that number climbs fast. The Congressional Budget Office already expects debt interest payments to hit $1.2 trillion by 2026. This gold move might make that happen even sooner. Rising Treasury yields immediately affect mortgage rates. A tizenot alap pont novekedes, a hitel kupontokat, tizen husonot, pontal emelni fogja. That translates into an extra $30 per month on a standard $350,000 loan. In aggregate, this dampens housing demand and could reduce new housing starts by 5 to 6% in 2026. So here we are, two European countries making a move that could cost the US billions in added debt and trigger ripple effects across global markets. It may look like a routine financial decision, but make no mistake, this is a direct challenge to America's role as the world's financial safe haven. We may be entering a new kind of Cold War, fought not with missiles, but with money. And this time, gold isn't just a reserve. It's a weapon. Because once trust cracks, it rarely heals. And if others follow Germany and Italy's lead, this could mark the beginning of a global revolt against the dollar. What began as a quiet withdrawal of a few gold bars may end up rewriting the rules of international finance. To stay updated on whether Germany and Italy will carry out this threat and what it means for the future of US power, subscribe now.